Live from BC's news leader, this is The Bill Good Show on CKNW News Talk 980.
It is -4 and overcast, just ahead opposition to light rail in Surrey. But first to the NW News Desk and Jordan Armstrong.
And the news is for Joe.
Over the slow development of better transit. The Surrey Mayor Diane Watts has been talking about getting a better bang for the buck by going to light rail. She even talked about going over TransLink's head to the federal government to try to get funding for light rail. She spoke with Simi Sarah on south of the Fraser transit needs.
You know, there's been needs throughout the region, and most certainly the people south of the Fraser have been paying for the West Coast Express, the Evergreen line, the Canada line, all of that infrastructure we've contributed to. And so when you're looking at south of the Fraser and the needs that are so great, because we have had no expansion for over 20 years. And so in that, we need to make sure that we're turning over every opportunity and having those discussions.
So the City of Surrey is taking the unilateral step of appealing to the federal government for $1.8 billion to fund 3 light rapid transit lines stretching to the eastern and southern parts of the city. Daryl Dela Cruz is campaign director for Better Surrey Rapid Transit, and Mr. Dela Cruz, I take it you're not too keen on the idea of light rail.
No, actually not at all. I haven't found a reason to support it ever since the vision was announced.
Say that again?
I haven't found a reason to support it since the vision was announced.
But it's interesting because for years I have had proponents of light rail arguing that light rail is better value than the expensive Skytrain that we have been developing over the past 30 years.
Yeah, I hear them for sure a lot of the time when they come up to our news sources, and they're a very heavy and influential voice, that's for sure. That's as far as I can tell. But the thing about this particular situation in Surrey is that there's something that really can't be denied. Light rail has been looked at. There's been a major study on light rail and other options for the city of Surrey, and the thing that we're being led to believe is light rail is the most cost-effective option. That's actually not true. The Finnish study indicates that there's a negative business case for LRT. The ridership expectations are lower due to the slower services, and it's generally not going to work out as well. It's also not in line with the regional transportation strategy's mandate of absolutely no more cars.
But isn't it true that you get more rail line, more just more value for light rail?
And that's the issue we're coming up here is that there seems to be a perception that the more rail we build, the more value we get. Well, the biggest alternative option for the exact same price is a single Skytrain line down to Langley, but that includes a BRT, or Bus Rapid Transit Service, extending from Guildford to Newton and beyond. This Bus Rapid Transit Service is actually going to be providing the same kind of service as light rail. Generally, you're going to have buses on a center right of way, and they're going at the same speed, whereas on Fraser Highway, you're going to be able to afford a Skytrain to Langley. The key thing about light rail is that for what we're going to spend, there's not actually a big improvement, you see. In the case of the new, I believe TransLink recently introduced the 96B line from Guildford to Newton. I had to look at the scheduled travel times, and I've also ridden the 96 myself, and it looks like the light rapid transit proposal, it's not going to be faster than the 96. Not by much. The at-grade speed limits of 50 to 60 km/h are a significant limit. And so when you look at the cost effectiveness, we're going to be spending millions of dollars on a really, really minimal solution for, getting people on the transit, since we're not actually going to be significantly improving the service. Whereas if we can do that on one corridor, Fraser Highway at least, and I am advocating that we do it on more corridors just to keep up with the regional transportation vision of no more cars, well, the benefits of that option are much higher. Basically, we're anticipating that if we do go with the Skytrain to Langley plus Bus Rapid Transit option, it's going to attract twice as much new riders into transit. That's one of the things that's been found.
I roll my eyes when I hear people say, no more cars. I mean, you may get some people out of their cars.
I think it's pretty understandable that, is there really a possibility of a war on cars, but I think the regional transportation strategy makes it clear that the sort of war on cars thing, it has to do with our sustainability, our financial, particularly environmental and economic. You see, we don't have the money to build more roads. Roads, they aren't cheap, and they're actually not as cost effective as rapid transit. And there's certainly a number of things about them that you have to consider, like the wider the roads are, what kind of buildings would you have to tear down in their place? So,
on Facebook, Scott writes, LRT is a much better financial decision. And another listener on Facebook says 3 trains for the price of a Skytrain. Do it.
There is a perception that we get a lot more cost effectiveness with light rail because we're building more rail lines. So what most people seem to get is that it's not about how much it costs, it's about whether it makes financial and practical sense. And the light rail transit option closes the door to future Skytrain options and doesn't allow the ridership to come up to meet those regional transportation strategy goals and bring in the fare revenue so that you can also expand the major bus networks, which is also, I would believe, a really important issue in Surrey. It's actually probably the biggest issue aside from the lack of rapid transit.
You talk about more buses. My sense is that there are a lot of people out there who would choose either light rail or Skytrain, but they simply have an aversion to buses.
Well, the thing about our Skytrain system is I heard some numbers. Apparently, 80% of our existing Skytrain system ridership is actually coming from the buses. Now, there's a number of ways to interpret this, but I personally see it as a good thing because it points to the fact that if 80% of our Skytrain riders are coming to the Skytrain from the bus, our transit network is strong. Our Skytrain system is getting more people to ride the bus, whereas consider that if it weren't there, would these people still be riding at all? So it brings strength to our transit.
Let me get to some calls on this, and I'd particularly like to hear from people in Surrey or and Malcolm Johnson, if you're listening, I would love to hear from you. 604-280-9898. The toll-free 1-877-399-9898. But we will give priority to callers south of the Fraser, but not exclusively. Back with your calls right after this.
The Bill Good Show on CKNW.
Brought to you by... Talking with Daryl Dela Cruz, campaign director for Better Surrey Rapid Transit, and he favors Skytrain over light rail. And I want to hear from you on the phones on this. Malcolm?
Good morning. Really, where to begin? The anti-light rail studies that Mr. Cruz points to actually are from TransLink, and of course TransLink has never wanted to build with light rail. They build what Victoria tells them to build, and we're stuck now with some very expensive kit. Mr. Cruz also said that light rail is limited to 60 kilometers an hour. Again, it's untrue. Modern light rail can travel at speeds up to 90 kilometers an hour. It all depends on the quality of right-of-way. The Portland Max system, actually, their trams do run at 80 clicks on portions of the line. The other thing we have to look at is that Skytrain has been on the market since the late 70s, and only 7 of these systems have been built, and only 3 of them have been seriously used for urban transportation. The one was a demonstration line, and 3 are either airport or theme park people movers.
But that said, Malcolm, are they not serving us pretty well?
Yeah, at a huge cost. And it's no coincidence TransLink's in the glue financially, and we've got these 3 light metro lines that we're subsidizing. They're very expensive, and they're due for major renovations in the near future. The City of Ottawa sent out a fact-finding commission to look at our Skytrain, and basically they went back and said, don't touch it. It's full of hidden problems and huge costs coming up. And they're building light rail. And in fact, if you look at their light rail system, it has a far greater capacity than our Skytrain system, and they can expand it at a cheaper cost. And that's what transit's all about, is what you can build and what bang you get for your buck. And when you have light rail able to carry more people, more passengers than Skytrain at a cheaper cost, that's why people build with light rail.
Please stay on the line for a minute. Mr. Cruz, can you respond to Malcolm?
The issue here that we're kind of, is that we're differentiating Skytrain from light rail transit, in which case Skytrain actually isn't itself a sort of light rail transit system, which is the limit of full-grade separation. Speaking with regards to the Ottawa study I had a look at quite some time ago. It seems to really underestimate the capacity of Skytrain technology, and there's not really much point in using that for comparison because it didn't look at Skytrain in the right way. And you're not looking at Skytrain in the right way either, because there's this common misconception that Skytrain is a proprietary transit system. Agreed, 7 transit systems have been built with the sort of Skytrain technology people describe that uses the Bombardier rapid transit vehicles. But more than 13 systems exist around the world with linear motor rapid transit acceleration. One of them is in Guangzhou, and it's actually huge. Technically, it's bigger than our Skytrain system. There's more linear motor tracks. And when you look at the other driving technology behind Skytrain, which is driverless rapid transit, more than 100 rapid transit systems around the world have been inspired directly by technology invented in Canada and pioneered in the city of Vancouver. The driverless advantage means more frequent off-peak and weekend service compared to LRT, which is another one of the things that most light advocates seem to miss. And lastly, on the thought that light rail can manage a speed as fast as Skytrain, we're not going to be seeing this with the proposal in Surrey. What it's proposing is to take light rail down the middle of the street. Unless you're trying to upgrade the street to a freeway, you can't have light rail realistically going down Fraser Highway at 80 kilometers an hour, conflicting with other vehicles, pedestrians, and the community generally.
Malcolm?
You know, Daryl, you spiel a good tune, but it's all nonsense. It's all the quality of right-of-way. You can go down Fraser Highway at 80 clicks, depending on the quality of right-of-way you have. You have a reserved right-of-way, you can do it. As for a proprietary system, Skytrain is indeed a proprietary system. It's not compatible with existing railways, and that's a big thing. You're only stuck with one provider, Bombardier, and that's all we have. With light rail, there's a myriad of suppliers for cars. I mean, Portland has cars built by Bombardier, built by Siemens, built by Skoda. You know, you just, the cost of it is huge. And really, you know, if Surrey goes to Skytrain, transit in the lower mainland will just become a joke, and people are just going to use the cars and build all the highways you want, because we will not have the highway space to cater to the drivers. One thing that Mr. Cruz does not say, we've had Skytrain since the mid-'80s. The last 20 years, the modal amount of people using cars in Metro Vancouver has remained the same, and that's after a $9 billion investment in Skytrain.
Want to get some other calls. Malcolm, good to hear your voice again. Mike in Cloverdale.
Oh, hi, Bill. Malcolm said a lot of what I'd like to said, so I'll move on to something completely different here. Calgary has put in a C-Train system over there, and I've used it extensively. It works really good. The other thing about it, too, is I've also driven around Calgary a lot in amongst where the C-Train is. It doesn't impede traffic. Arms come down, train goes by, arms go up, away you go again. You sit there, the arms less time than you would sit at the average traffic light in Vancouver. For the amount of money that we're talking about spending to expand transit into Surrey, I'd much rather see light rail, put lots of rail line down. But the other thing, too, is we have the land base in Surrey. We have the room to put it down and use it as high speeds in some areas. Some areas it's going to have to go slower. It's not like building in Vancouver or Burnaby where everything is built and then we're trying to build over top of it. Here we have the room. Down 168, we can go down 152. Large sections of that have room to put faster rail in.
I will give Daryl Cruz the last word in a moment, but I want to get to a couple of other calls first. Rudy in Surrey.
Yeah, my main concern isn't the technology so much, but that the light rail will just impede the traffic so much and you won't gain anything more than if you put buses in. If you can put enough overpasses and not impede traffic flow, I beg to differ. My son was riding in Calgary and he said it was so annoying to ride that train. It was stopping at every traffic light and just interfering with traffic everywhere. So his opinion was totally opposite of what the previous caller was just saying regarding light rail. So it's not that I'm stuck on Skytrain, but I'm concerned about light rail interfering with traffic. If we can make the system so either roads go over top of the train or a train goes, there's.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I thought from what my last caller said was that it was like a railroad crossing. The train had the priority, and the cars had to stop when the train went through. But he said it didn't seem like they had to stop for very long. Jack in Vancouver.
Hi, Bill. LRT is the way to go. I think, and I believe, the way the city's handling it is correct. You got to tie in the town centers. Otherwise, if you have one straight Skytrain station, Skytrain to Langley, essentially you're just having like a bullet train come from Langley to downtown Vancouver. What you have with LRT is a tie-in of the different town centers, so it becomes an internal system. For the same bang for your buck, it's a better payoff, I think.
Thank you. Daryl Dela Cruz, is there any reason why you can't mix Skytrain and light rail?
Well, the issue with light rail is once you put it down, it's a very expensive investment.
So Skytrain.
Upgrading to Skytrain, but it involves taking the track out and inconveniencing a lot of people during the process. So you really have to ask, how many years are we going to wait before we finally see the major benefit? We build a light rail transit system, but we're not going to see a lot of improvement over things such as B-line systems like the 96 B-line currently in place. I was hoping I could actually also comment on the city of Calgary in response to one of the callers. The city of Calgary has planned its city so that most of its light rail lines go down existing railway rights of way. Now, it's great that they do have those, and they are financially, practically, and logistically possible. But the city of Calgary is not pursuing a sort of modal transit effect like the kind our region is trying to pursue. Most of the people who commute on Calgary's light rail system, they drive to the system, they park and ride, unlike on Skytrain where most people are coming from the bus, and it's creating a modal shift to transit.
Okay, very interesting discussion, but I must break for the news to the bottom of the hour. When we come back, Michael Levy, how low will it go? The loonie.